Welcome to In Alignment. I'm Annie.
And I'm Marissa. You were meant to find this today, and we're so glad you're here.
Welcome back to In Alignment. We are going to do a solo today, chatting about morning routines, which has been a big part of both of our lives, but I think something that has taken a little bit of time to find our own rhythm and what works. And then also how morning routines are dynamic. They are not, static. They change as we travel, as we move into different seasons of our lives, different seasons of the year, but they can be so grounding and so supportive to our health. So I think this is going to be a fun one. Marissa, let's start off with what is your morning routine?
Yeah, I mean, my morning routine, like you said, has changed over time and it is not perfect every day. But I have some staples of like what I have to do in the morning to feel good for the day. And my number one thing in the morning that sets me up for success is going outside, no matter what the weather is, and walking ideally for like 30 minutes, but even 10 minutes is like, that's sort of like the number one part of my morning routine. And I know you and I talk about this a lot, but like even in the winter is so important. What about if you had like one piece of your morning routine that you couldn't give up, what would it be?
Mine would be my coffee and just sitting. Like I think I've put pressure on myself to be a meditator and do like certain programs religiously. And I've ebbed and flowed out of a lot of different things, like the Open app or someone I found on YouTube or Insight Timer, and then also journaling. And I think the meditation piece, I dabble in and out of. It's definitely consistent, more so like the mindfulness piece. But if I put so much pressure on it, I lose it. So it can't be too rigid. But the kind of container that I use that time for, of like 30 minutes, 40 minutes before I do anything is so important to me. So I make my coffee, I have my lemon water, I ice my face. It's like I never go a day without that, even when I'm traveling. And then I sit in my bed and I breathe and I feel my body. If I want to meditate, I meditate. I don't force it. But the one thing that I like to do, but it requires a little bit more force that I do every single morning before I leave my apartment is I do a gratitude journal, usually 5 things, but I try and go for as long as I can of what I'm grateful for right now and then what I'm grateful for in 5 years. And that is an active manifestation process. And it is amazing. So that part I can't live without.
That is so good because so for me too, I do more of like my breath work and meditation at night. When I wake up in the morning, it's hard enough to not check my email, jump into the day and feel like I always wake up with like oh my gosh, it's time for the day. And so I need to pull myself back from that. But sometimes trying to meditate is just, it's too much pressure to do something in the morning. But journaling is a really good in between because it feels like there's movement to it. It's not like totally still. And I love the 5 things now, 5 things 5 years from now because it can be really quick, which I feel like is the key to a good morning routine is like, if you need we've also joked about this, like in periods when I've had like work's been less stressful or I'm working from home, I can 1000% make my morning routine like 3 hours long. Like I love nothing more than just like doing all of the self-care things in the morning. So reducing that down to like a reasonable 15, 30 minutes, ideally like 45 minutes can really help stay consistent with doing something in the morning.
I completely agree with you. Is there a part of your morning routine like, okay, I go to bed excited for my coffee and, like, that just blank space of 30 minutes that I can just, like, sit and exist. Is there a part of your morning routine that you, like, go to bed excited for?
Yeah, I do think for me it is so I drink like normally this electrolyte style energy thing and I love drinking that and then going outside. I also feel like what makes me excited to go outside in the morning is that I usually either have a phone call or a podcast planned that I'm like excited to listen to. And I feel like because my days are usually so chaotic with like things I have to do and people I have to talk to and whatever, having like that little time, it's almost like getting excited to watch Netflix or something. It's like, this is like time for me to do something um that is not it feels productive, but it's not like the most productive thing, which is nice. And then the other thing I've been sort of challenging myself with though is to have more like stillness without talking to someone or a podcast because I think I sort of have the habit of always trying to fill my time with noise or learning or talking to someone. And I've realized that that's like a little bit of a coping mechanism for me. And so even if it's not meditation, but like journaling or walking alone with just like my headphones and my music in, that stillness, I've like come to really, yeah, I've come to like look forward to just having a little bit of time that's just mine. But um, I do want to like try just sitting in my apartment. Like, I love that you ice roll your face and like, I think doing things like that can be so. Also, wait, your Pinterest thing is amazing.
But yeah, that's a big part, yeah. Okay, this is what we should do. I'll go first, and then I wanna hand it over to you. Let's walk step by step because hopefully this gives people inspo. There's, like, some things that resonate, leave what doesn't, obviously. I'll walk through my current morning routine, and then you walk through yours, and then we can dive into, like, how your change to what your morning routine was in New York versus Austin, or what we do while we travel, or how it changes over the seasons, because I think flexibility is so important, and that creates more consistency as well. But yeah, my morning routine right now is I wake up usually like 6:30, 6:45, and I try to be outside on a walk by like 8, 8:15. So I need like a good chunk of time to just like be, exist, lean into the morning. It's my favorite part of the day. But I wake up, I ice roll my face, I drink a ton of lemon water, room temp lemon water with Celtic sea salt. That's like my new obsession. It helps with hydration. Ice roll my face and then I put on a face mask every single morning. I have like 3 and we are creating like a full shift shop where we're linking all of our non-toxic favorite everything from beauty, skincare, food, you name it. So everything that we reference will eventually be on our shop. But I have a few favorite face masks
Is
that
it a
I
sheet mask?
no, I love Tata Harper's masks. I'm obsessed with Tata Harper. And I think a big thing about a morning routine is how it feels. And Tata Harper, their masks smell so good, but they're also like beautiful. The aesthetic of them is beautiful. And that is like, I'm a very visual, aesthetic driven person. I love like the beauty in things. And she has these beautiful face masks, which we can like, but I rotate between them. There's 3 different ones, and every morning I'll do one of them. And then I make my coffee. I'm a coffee addict. I've recently gotten into espresso, but it's either that or cold brew. With my lemon water, I get in my bed, sit back in my bed, but my bed's made. I sit on top of it with a blanket. It's very specific. And I sit and meditate and breathe, do a body scan, and then I will take out my computer. I am dyslexic and I can't spell for my life, so handwriting drives me insane. So I'm always a typer. I pull out my computer, but I will not open text. I won't open actually. I've gotten into a horrible habit of doing work first, but I try not to. But sometimes I'll like do a little bit of work and then I will get into it. And I start my journal. So I'll like word vomit. I used to do Nicole Sachs journal speak religiously, which is amazing. And now it's not like, I don't require myself to do 10, 20 minutes of it, but I will just word vomit, like something from yesterday I want to flesh out, some way that I'm feeling, something I want to focus on, like just like kind of detox the emotions out, get everything out on paper. Then I go into gratitude as I have my coffee and lemon water. And then after that, do skincare. And similar to you, I go out for a walk. I've also been trying to be better about reading the news. And we're so busy, so there's not always like the time in the day to read all of it. So sometimes I'll listen to like the NPR podcast for 15 minutes and then do the rest in silence or like with a song. But I try and have my walk, especially my morning walk, that's like 30 minutes, be no pressure. No, like you have to do this. I'm really trying to get away from shoulds. But that is what I'm loving these days, and I want to hear from you.
I love that. So I'm the opposite on the news. Before I go into my whole morning routine, just for anyone listening to this that maybe has gotten into a bad habit with the news, I used to be like religiously on top of the news and I would I would listen to the news every morning or read the news every morning. And what I kind of found was so much of it is like designed to inflame us. And it would like ruin my mood for the day. I described it as like years ago when I was working at Peloton, I started watching Handmaid's Tale and I would like literally be in a bad mood at work. And people were like, what's wrong? And I would really think about what was wrong. And I realized it was just like the TV show was putting me in I was like angry, honestly, like gratefully so at the world and everything, even though it's like a fictional show, it felt real in a lot of ways. So for me, moving, like I want to be informed, but I don't want to be like submerged in the news. So I limit the amount of news I can read enough to stay informed, know what's going on, but not like just doom scroll the news. I won't even look at it until like after lunch for that reason. Because yeah, like I feel like for some people who are like me, it's like it can just like totally take my headspace to like another place. Okay, but my ideal morning routine. So I have trouble waking up really early, and the more pressure I put to wake up really early, the worse I sleep. So I don't like to put any pressure on myself to wake up early. Like if I can wake up at 6:30, 6:45, great, but usually it's actually more like 7:30. And the first like 30 minutes of my morning are making my bed, washing my face, and doing my skincare, like brushing my teeth, and just kind of having my bed made and my space clean puts me in like the perfect headspace to like start my day. I know we talk about this all the time, but like my bed just has to be made. And then I get outside as quickly as possible because as soon as I get like the sunlight on my face, even if it's cloudy or not so nice, like the fresh air, it just like wakes me up. And I love, love, love my walk. For me, if I can walk by water, that is like exponentially better than anything else. But living in New York for so many years, I lived near the water, so that was really nice. But finding like a path that does not feel stressful is so important. And then I come back and I journal. So for me, my journaling usually is around like, what is my intention for the day, or like, how am I feeling today and what's my intention? And I like putting an intention out there because it sort of like creates the right framing and headspace for me to get into. And then if I'm up for it, I love doing like a breathing exercise. But what I usually do ever since going to Hoffman is they have something called the quadrinity check, which is like you scan your body, you ask your body how it's doing, what it needs, what it's saying to you. Then you talk to your emotional self. What are my emotions that I'm experiencing? How can I be there for myself emotionally today? What's going on in my mind? What are my thoughts? What's the like quality of my thoughts? And then like what's going on with my authentic self? So that's Hoffman specific, but I think that like having that full like check in with myself is great. And yeah, that's like pretty much it. But I can I could and sometimes do like really drag this out. Like there's nothing more luxurious to me than
Yeah.
world's longest morning routine.
It's like almost this period where you can just like exist in the things that feel really good to you. And everyone will hear more about this when we officially launch the platform. But like a big part of our method is learning, cultivating this list or this toolkit of the things that feel creative to you, expansive to you, nurturing to you. Like, how can we feed ourselves? Because, like, the thesis of Shift is we have to align internally before we can align externally. And the way that you align internally and the way that you are embodied and really get to know your core self and your authentic needs and like what lights you up, what makes you feel creative or expanded or excited and energized. So many of those things we can cultivate on our own in our own lives in like an hour in the morning. And it's like, I think what's so special about a morning routine is it almost doubles as a way to just connect to your true, most authentic self. And I think there's like pressure too on social media of like this influencer is this morning routine or like do this morning routine to like look this way or to feel this way. And I think that that totally defeats the purpose of a morning routine. Like it should look totally different based on who you are.
Completely. The pressure of it all on social media is like it does feel performative when you see it a lot of the time. And it's like the opposite of what it should be. It should be just taking space for you in the day. And I think it's the ultimate form of self-care. Like creating that space. So in my last job, I would often go to work and there would be personalities there that were very aggressive, very, very stressed. And I would walk into work and immediately be bombarded with like, you know, a man who was, yeah, very honestly, very aggressive. And I was like, when I didn't do my morning routine, my energy could so easily get swept up in their energy. And I didn't have that sort of like grounded feeling of like, okay, you are freaking out. You are feeling that way. I don't have to feel that way. Like creating that space in the morning for yourself grounds you, connects you with you so that you're not as like what's the word for it? I don't know. You're not as pulled by other people and other moods. And that's what it's like all about to me is centering my energy, getting myself in a good place so that I can kind of handle whatever comes to me in the day. And also, like, no matter what happened to me that happens to me that day, I had that time for me. Like, I
Yes.
don't have to worry about, like, doing something else for myself that day if I get that time in the morning, you know?
Yeah, that's a really good point too, is it allows you to, like, settle so you don't ride the wave of everyone else.
Yeah.
I feel like being calm in the midst of chaos or, like, being able to be I always think of this analogy of, like, you're standing still and these people are running around you. The goal is to not run with them. Like, you
Yes.
can stand as these things move around you, but you don't lose your ground. And I think that something literally a morning routine is grounding, but because you ground into your sense of self. And like, okay, I'll mention the Pinterest thing. I forgot to mention this, but creative time is a big part of my morning routine. So every morning, typically, when I have that quiet time sitting in my bed, I journal on my computer. Sometimes I'll do breath work or meditate, but I always dedicate and it's exciting. It almost feels like a little like treat. I'm obsessed with Pinterest. And I have a board called Align, and it's what my aligned life feels like. And it almost piggybacks on the visualization or my gratitude for what I'm grateful for in 5 years, because what I'm grateful for is pretty consistent. It's like this life that I'm excited to move into and I'm cultivating and I can see it. Like I'm a very visual person. I can see the apartment I can live in. I like see the dynamic with my partner or the children that I have or my business. And then I move on to Pinterest and I pin things that feel like creative and expansive. Like maybe some of them are offices that I want to have. Maybe some of them are nature and travel and trips or like big women's dinners or networking events or like apartment aesthetics of like the home I want to have. And it's almost like this visual manifestation of excitement, of creativity, of motivation. And that is like it's so expansive to me, and I dedicate, like, 20 to 30 minutes. I do that, I journal, I, like, dabble between them, I have my coffee, I enjoy it, and it's such an amazing practice, and I think that the other thing to say is that our morning routines don't always have to be hard. I think that they should be things that we enjoy.
Well, that's the funny thing about it is when I was a little bit younger, I was like, I need to get my shit together. And getting my shit together means I need this morning routine. And I was looking at like the influencers and I was like, okay, I need to wake up. I need to meditate right away. I need to not look at my phone. I need to do affirmations. I need to go to my workout class. And the more pressure I put on it, the less enjoyable it was. And so I think it's funny, like you and I have totally different routines. We both are big outdoor walkers, which I do think if anyone's looking for like a low lift way to improve your mental health X, I I mean, at least for me, my mental health improved exponentially when I started going outside in the morning. And I used to I think about pre-pandemic. I literally don't know how we did it, but I would wake up at 6 a.m., go to a workout class, shower there, go to the office, go out after. And my main priority for my morning was like, how do I get a really hard workout in and like burn as many calories as possible? And that was like sort of my metric for success. And now it's like, I pretty much never do a real workout in the morning. Like I have to find time for that somewhere else in the day because my morning routine is all about like what is genuinely like fun and feels good to me. And for me, that's like walking outside, which is a workout, but it's like different than, going to berries or going to solid core. Like that's a whole other energy. And for some people, going to solid core or berries in the morning might be like the thing that they look forward to when they go to sleep at night. And that might feel incredible. Or for other people, just sitting on your couch and doing a face mask and journaling. So there is no like right way to do it. But the only thing that I feel like is the same for everyone is like make space for yourself before you let the day in, before you let other people have your time, your focus, your energy, do something for you.
And that it shouldn't be the shoulds. Like when pre-pandemic, when you're waking up at 6 and going to a really hard workout, it was almost like should, should, should. It was like, I have to do this so my body feels this way or looks this way, or so I'm like productive or I'm the highest achiever. And I feel like, we talk so much about your authentic self. And then ego is like, there's like a different connotation for it. Not ego in like the conventional sense, but almost the external facing you of I should do these things to satisfy societal norms or to keep myself safe in the world or to, execute some element of control. And that's like the ego and authentic self. And we've developed patterns and behaviors to keep us safe in like that way. And then there's the authentic self. And I think it can be really hard to release. Like, I used to do the same thing. I would wake up every morning and work out, and I was like, "This is good. Like, I should be doing this because I can control my body more, and I'm the first one to the office, and that looks really good to my boss." Like, that's more the ego self. Like, my authentic self needs 7 hours of sleep. It needs a slower morning routine. It definitely does not work out first thing in the morning. I, like, need that quiet time, and moving into, like, those more authentic rituals that might not look as "impressive," quote, unquote, or be as, I don't know, like, regimented or success driven. I've actually felt so much more peace and success in my life by doing the authentic things rather than driven things. So there's almost like this, like, counterintuitive, or it has, like, the opposite effect that we think it would.
Yeah, and also looking forward to it is so important because I think we can easily get ourselves into like a shame spiral if you have all these plans of stuff you're going to do in the morning and then you're tired. Like you and I need very different amounts of sleep. I think
Mhm.
this even goes back to our conversation about human design. Like I'm a projector, you're a generator. I am a sleepy girl. You're like, I need 7 hours of sleep. I'm like, I need nine. I also could nap again after that. Like, and so for me, the other thing is, like, for me, sometimes self-care is skipping my morning routine, getting it down to 5 minutes because I need the sleep, and, like, knowing when you need that is also good. Like, for me, a good morning routine can look like sleeping in, and I have to be somewhere within 30 minutes, but in those 30 minutes, I'm doing something, like, for myself while I'm getting ready. Like, it doesn't not every day has to be this long performative thing. It's more of, like, the energy you bring to the morning of, like, how do I take care of myself the way I would take care of a child or a friend rather than like, how do I make this, especially for us who are like trying to be productive all day and like trying to make this another layer of like productivity, you know? I just, yeah, like which is, so for example, I've been in Austin, Texas for the last week. It's actually been like, I don't know. I've been here for like a week.
No, Saturday would be a week.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I've like totally, or no, Saturday will be 2 weeks. I've been here for 2 weeks.
Oh my god.
And my morning routine in Austin like looks so different than New York. I feel like it's just the energy of the city. Like, I don't know. Did you feel that way when you went to Boston?
Oh my god, yeah. Well, also in New York, I was working full time in an office, and I would wake up, I would, rush my morning routine. I would go to the Equinox, I'd shower at the Equinox, I'd walk to work, I'd listen to a podcast. Like, I definitely feel like the energy of New York was more optimization driven. And, like, yes, granted, our lives look very different now. We're starting our own companies. We have, like, flexible schedules. And in New York, both of us were in a little bit more of, like, conventional careers, so there was a little bit more outside of our control, which I think is really important to note, though. And I would, like, love to ask you, when you were working at Peloton, when I was in VC, when we were both in the office, what are ways that people that are in a 9 to 5 or, like, are full-time in the office can incorporate some of these things with less flexibility? But I definitely think I moved to Boston, it's just a little bit quieter, it's a little bit slower. I'm also, building my own business, so I have a lot more flexibility. It totally shifted my morning routine. And I think we should definitely note that, like, that is the flexibility in our lives right now is definitely not the norm, and it is an enormous luxury.
Yeah.
So I would love, like, do you wanna share a few tips of things that you incorporated while you were
Yeah.
at Peloton, and I can do the same?
At Peloton and then also at Ernesto, where I was for 3 years, I was in an office. Both were in Chelsea, like blocks from each other. And I think whenever you're taking the subway to work, you're letting in a certain level of chaotic energy in the morning that I don't think if you're driving to work or walking to work or working from home, you simply don't deal with like, some days are great and quiet and peaceful. Other days you might have someone who's like terrorizing your subway car or like you'll get delayed or you'll be like smushed up against people. And it's so easy to like start getting really stressed and angry and in your head, or at least it was for me. And so when I was working in an office and I sometimes like couldn't go and do things in the morning, like I did try to stick with that walk. And like I said, that massively changed the way I felt when I got to the office. And the walk had to be separate than my commute. It couldn't be like baked into my commute. It had to be like I go on a walk, I come home, and then I go to work.
Mhm.
But one of the things I actually did was like on the subway, I changed what I was doing. So instead of like scrolling on social media, texting, catching up on email, like setting Slacks to dos, I would that is like when I would try to like bake in the mindfulness stuff. So I would sometimes like journal on the subway if I was lucky enough to get a seat. I would like listen to something that was really soothing to me. Sometimes it was just music. Other times I would do like some box breathing, which might sound crazy. It's like not the environment for that, but I felt like trying to make my commute as peaceful as possible also is like a good way to multitask and like shift my energy. But like comparing that to while I'm in Austin right now, I'm staying at my best friend's house. I sit out, like she has like this screened in like area outside, and I just sit there and hear the birds. And then I come in and work and I'm like, okay, literally like it's just so different because there's nothing that's gonna like outside that is gonna come in and stress out my energy. So like commuting to an office, especially in New York, is like a totally different beast.
One thing that I would do in New York when I was walking is I would play sound bath music.
I love sound bath
So I
music.
would and you have to be careful obviously in New York, like, you wanna have your wits about you, but instead of, like, rap or music or, like, an educational podcast or just, like, listening to the jackhammers and sirens, I would just put in, like, a sound bath or meditative music, and it was so relaxing. Because I think, like, no matter your situation, no matter your schedule, there are little hacks. Like, there are little things that you can do to add softness, to ground you. Like, another really simple one is I'm a coffee addict, and that's both a good and a bad thing, but I always start my morning with room temp lemon water with sea salt, and, like, that is hydrating, it's nurturing, it's also an exciting routine. Like, I have a huge glass mason jar and these colorful glass straws, and, like, even the act of making that, I enjoy. The act of making my coffee as I ice roll my face, I enjoy. So, like, no matter your schedule, no matter where you live, like, there are little things that you can implement that feel really good. Another one would be if you have, like, a long commute and the traffic drives you insane, can you listen to a meditation? Like, I think it's Tara is amazing, but she has almost these, like, podcasty meditations, embodiment experiences. I think she's a somatic practitioner, but there are little things that we can do to, like, incorporate these feelings into our morning routine.
Totally. You actually just reminded me of something because I feel like we haven't talked about food at all. I used to wake up and go to work without eating, and I would drink a ton of caffeine and just like go to work. And I feel like there's been so many different things out there about like, should you eat in the morning? It's the most important meal of the day. It should eat 30 grams of protein in 30 minutes of waking up, or actually intermittent fast. And there's like all of these like trends and things. And I found for me, if I eat within the first 45 minutes of waking up, I definitely feel a lot better, but I usually don't have such an appetite. So I try to like make something like my appetite really kicks in a little bit later in the morning and then I'm like ravenous. But if I eat in the morning, I feel more grounded and I have more energy throughout the day. So it's been kind of interesting to like experiment with when do I eat, what do I eat? And for a while I was like totally in that protein craze where I was eating like a 20-gram of protein Oiko yogurt, and then I put protein powder in it, which now I would never do. I'm like, I would never start my day with like all of this synthetic stuff. But I was like, I read like this is exactly what you have to do in the morning. But now for me, it like, I do think like yogurt's a great one, but I also love this like very specific oatmeal from one of my friends started this oatmeal company called Dawnbreaker Oats, and it's really, really good. But anyway, yeah, like I'm curious what you do for food and if you've ebbed and flowed with all of the different like morning trends.
Mhm. Wait, is it an overnight oat or is it a hot oatmeal? I'm curious.
It's a hot oatmeal, but it's an instant oatmeal, but it has all, like, really good ingredients in it, and it has protein, but it's, like, clean, there's no, like, artificial stuff in it. I mean, it's really I think as far as, like, an instant easy thing, it's really clean. I know that, you know, I would be if I could, like, cook my own eggs or, like, make my own vegetables or whatever, but I do again, coming back to morning routines being realistic. I don't have like, I need something so fast. Like, it needs to be something I can make in a minute, or it needs to be a yogurt. And, like, not letting perfect be the enemy of the good, like, finding something that's as clean as you can that you'll eat, that you'll actually do is better than, like, trying to be perfect, you know?
100%. I feel like this is all about little hacks. Like, I'm a big leftovers for breakfast person, so, like, cook double dinner, meal prep, for breakfast at the beginning of the week, make extra of your lunch. I have found I'm similar to you. I actually don't force myself to eat first thing. Like that's just never worked for me. I feel like when I'm hungry, and usually that's around 9 to 10.
Yeah.
So I actually don't. I usually get up at like 6:30 to 7, and I won't eat until 9 or 10. This is always my biggest meal of the day. I have once I do get hungry in the morning at like 9 or 10, I am the most hungry. And one hack that I have felt has made such an impact on my energy, on my moods, on my hormones is eating like literally dinner for breakfast. So I'll have leftover roasted sweet potatoes, roasted vegetable. Oh my God, I can't speak. Vegetables on like a huge bed of greens with tahini or olive oil. And then like 3 fried eggs or even like steak from last night or chicken. I know it sounds insane, but it's delicious, it sustains me, and it sets me up really well for, like, consistent energy. So breakfast is actually my biggest meal of the day, and it's usually, like, dinner.
I'm also a huge I don't really love breakfast foods. Maybe that's a sin of me, but especially making them at home, like, I have a weird thing with eggs. I love eggs when they're cooked by someone else, but cooking my own eggs, I just really struggle with
Yeah.
that. So, for me, like, lunch and dinner foods for breakfast actually are so much better. I am known to eat, like, Indian food at 10 AM.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's great for me. Like, I can have pasta or, I always, like, when I was in college and would eat late night pizza, I loved having it for breakfast. So, yeah, I feel like if people don't like breakfast foods or you don't feel that, like, I feel like people, hundreds of years ago were eating steak or chicken or, like, meat and vegetables for breakfast, and it's great, like, our bodies love that.
So funny. This started in I started eating this way, like, maybe in college, and I remember a group of my friends, my high school friends, we went to visit one of our other friends at Middlebury, and we were, like, juniors in college or sophomores in college, like, going out, partying, whatever, and we wake up at, like, 7 AM, and we go to the dining hall to get breakfast before we're gonna leave and drive home, and everyone is getting, like, pancakes, waffles, scrambled eggs, and I had a huge plate of green beans. When it's like, "What is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "This is, like, what I crave in the morning." Like, I want vegetables, eggs. I'm a huge, like, fat person. Like, not so I talk about it constantly, but, like, almonds, like, the satiating, like, sweet potatoes, nut butter, like, the really complex carbs, really high fat, like, honestly, like, higher calorie. I definitely, like, want more in the morning. But, yeah, I mean, like, what works? I think that the biggest piece of advice that we can give is, like, try to avoid the synthetics, because I think that when you start your day with, like, a protein bar with synthetic protein and natural flavors and gums and emulsifiers, or even, like, the protein yogurts, as you were saying, or the protein powders that have all of these additives, we end up feeling so much worse. So, I feel like that's, like,
My
a piece of advice.
That was my worst. When I think about the time in my life when I maybe looked really good and seemed really healthy, but I was the most unhealthy, it was when all I cared about was numbers. I cared about grams of protein per day, calories, and in doing that, I was drinking, like, Core Powers, and I said the protein yogurts, and I was eating a lot of stuff out of packages and boxes because it was easy, and honestly, it was because I needed to see the numbers, and so, like, I didn't have time to measure my food, which I would never do now, but, like, I didn't have time for that, so I was like, "Okay, well, at least this now I know I'm hitting my protein goal for the day," because I was trying to build strength, and I was told that that was, like, important for me as a woman, like, if I wanna be live a long life and be strong and whatever, then I needed to eat a certain way and I needed to hit those protein numbers. And I'm not saying protein isn't important. And I'm not saying that, if you are really trying to change the way you eat, that there isn't some number that maybe is important to you. But generally, I now live my life by, like, the closer to it being in the ground or outside in nature, the least amount of processing possible between when it was, like, pulled out of the ground and I'm eating it, the better. And, you and I talk about this all the time, but, like, we don't restrict or limit or count at all because when you're eating that way, when you're eating, like, really whole foods, your body feels really satiated. Your body starts telling you what it needs. Our guts stop craving things that are bad for us. Like the more sugar you eat, the more alcohol you drink, the more synthetics you eat, the more your body like craves that stuff and it gets you into a bad cycle. So like when I was eating like that, my skin was worse, my PMS was worse, my hunger levels throughout the day were unpredictable. I would crash. And so yeah, like there is nothing like real food.
So, yeah, I feel like that is like the one. It doesn't matter. Everyone has different eating styles. Like, don't count carbs. Don't like just. I feel like the whole protein hype too. Have hit your whatever it is, like your body weight in grams of protein a day. It's like that level of detail is kind of just noise. It does not matter. But like the one thing that will make you feel incredible, I guess two things is just eat real whole foods, as you're saying, and also just follow your body. Like some days we need more of this, some days we need less of this. And I think if we're always following these plans of like hit this laundry list of things a day, then we're never listening to our body. And like
Totally.
we're actually taking ourselves further out of health because our body has every day our body is in communication with us and it is telling us if we are hungry, for how much, for what. Like the information is there. And some days it looks way more carb heavy or way more fruit heavy or way more protein heavy or lighter or more caloric. But like that variability is when we're just listening and constantly in communication with our internal self and following the guidance it gives us, like it will tell us what and how much to eat.
And that comes fully back to the morning routine topic because if we are anytime we set really rigid rules, like I have
Mhm.
to do these 5 things in the morning, I have to eat this. It ends up being a willpower game where you're constantly overriding yourself. And so, like, that's what I was saying about some mornings, I just need to sleep until the last possible minute that I need to sleep. And I'm going to put my hair in a slicked back bun and I'm going to spend 5 minutes on my morning routine because I needed that extra hour. And if I'm beating myself up for that, I'm in a vicious cycle. And same with food. It's like, some weeks, especially like for me when I'm really stressed, like when I'm super anxious, my appetite decreases. And then when I come back to normal and I'm less anxious, I tend to compensate. And so I'm extra, extra hungry. And it's like, am now just like, oh, okay, my body needs more food this week. My body needs less food this week. Today I'm craving carbs. Tomorrow I'm craving protein. And yeah, like treating our body as like something that's helping us rather than something we have to override and control is like the mindset shift that makes all of this stuff possible. But I think it's hard, right? Because like I'm trying to think back to, we're disconnected from that little voice, right? It's hard. I definitely didn't used to know that I was getting those cues. Like,
Mhm.
what do they sound like to you? Or like, how do we make this more tangible?
This is such a good one. There's two things. Sometimes there's the voice that sits on the surface, and the first thing we have to say to that voice. So it's like, okay, say right now, I'm like kind of stressed, busy day, all these things are going on, and I'm like, "Ugh, I really want that cookie in the fridge." The first thing is sit with that. Like, am I actually hungry? Do I actually want that cookie, or is there an emotion underneath that? Like, am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Am I stressed? And it's like, oh, whoa, I actually have this meeting coming up that I'm really stressed about. And I'm trying to escape that discomfort, and that thing is gonna bring me instant joy. Okay, that's the reason why I want the cookie. Okay, well, do I wanna indulge in it and, like, really enjoy the cookie, or do I wanna say, like, "This might not make me feel the best. I'm gonna have this instead, or I'm gonna have water, I'm gonna go for a walk outside, or I'm gonna, like, sit and meditate, or I'm gonna think about what in this meeting is stressing me out, like, what is the meaning behind it?" It's being able to do that exercise with yourself, and then, say dinner's coming and you're starving. And it's like, okay, I'm really hungry. Like, what would feel so satiating to my body right now? What are some of my favorite recipes? What are ways that I can make this a little bit more caloric or add in things that are going to fill that level of hunger that I have because, like, I'm truly, really hungry. It's being able to take the first feeling that we have of the impulse of, I want to go get this, I want to Uber Eats this, or I want to go get that cookie, and then go one layer deeper and ask yourself, like, what is underneath that? And if it is true hunger, then it's how do we satisfy this? And that usually means, like, for me, I'll like double up the fats, I'll add in a complex carb to really make that meal satiating. Other times it's like, I want a snack to avoid something. Well, what's the feeling underneath? I think our body is always giving us signals, whether they're through physical hunger, which I think we actually can feel of like, I'm physically
Yeah,
hungry, and
for
then
sure.
like an impulse to go get something. And I think when it's like that quick impulse, there's usually something sitting under it that isn't what we think it is. But
Yes.
how do you practice that?
Well, you also just reminded me of something because I think that that is what how we work with our bodies when we're in a pretty healthy and balanced state. But I think for, there were points at my life where I did have to get my body into a healthier state, and I did have to, like, use discipline essentially to kind of rewire certain neural pathways because I'm thinking back to, maybe let's take 2018. My body was just saying, if I were listening to my body, it would have been like sugar, alcohol, like don't go on a walk, like we just want to lay here. And it was like, well, I was avoiding the day. I hated this was actually like pre Peloton, but like, oh, if I hated my job, I didn't want to get out of bed. And it's like, you do sometimes have to say, I know I will feel better once I do this walk or do this thing. And so once you start there, it does take some of that like discipline and decision at the beginning. But once you do it over and over again, your body starts to crave it. So you do sometimes have to rewire that at first. And similarly, when my diet was so not great, I had an overgrowth of like candida in my gut and I had these different issues and those bad bacteria were craving sugar all the time. And so I wasn't even craving good, healthy, nutritious foods because my body was like, had a bacteria imbalance in my gut. And so there are now to me, the what does my body want feels more intuitive of like, yeah, it's the feeling of hunger. It's the feeling of a walk. Also, a lot of the times that I might have a craving for something less healthy, like sugar or alcohol, I am actually dehydrated or I actually need a walk, and those 2 things can really, like, help. So I think, yeah, it's getting sometimes you have to kind of get into that routine to start hearing it rather than just, like, listening to the first thing that your body's saying, to your point.
Completely. Completely. And I think that this exercise of just going inward and being like, what is underneath? What is underneath is such a great way to tap into our intuition. And then we get the feedback of like, I'm hungry for this, or I actually need a walk, or whoa, like this dynamic with my boss is really uncomfortable. And as soon as you have an urge or an impulse, if we go one step below it, not only does that serve us in building health by being able to make intuitive right decisions or the code, am I actually hungry and for what? And end up like feeding a state of health in our body. But when we go one step deeper, we actually can understand like where things are misaligned or like where we have funny messages or where we don't feel as good in our lives or like things that need to change because when we're constantly just satisfying the urge, we're missing that intuition and learning how to move into a rhythm and like that dance with your body is a beautiful thing, but also learning how to continuously tap into your intuition.
Yeah.
Oh my God, does that change your life?
And when you like, I think a lot of times I knew, like, I didn't like my job, right? Or I have to go deal with this man every single day who is not kind to me, who yells, who's like at work, and I would dread that, but I couldn't just, like, quit my job, and so I think the other thing is these self-care routines create a level of resilience and calm even when you have something in your life that's out of alignment, because we can't always move cities, quit our job, whatever. It's good to know, though, when your job is not a fit or when you to even be able to say, "Okay, I don't like interacting with that person. I don't like working with that person, but, I have to, at least for now. So I'm gonna build these other moments in my day that give me peace that will help me be more resilient." And then I think the other part of it is there is something about, like, keeping a promise to yourself that makes you have so much self-esteem. And so when I was thinking about the other thing with my morning routine, when I would tell myself, "We're gonna wake up and we're gonna go for a walk," and then I would actually do it, even just doing the thing I said I was gonna do, like, made a really big difference in how I felt about myself.
100%. It's such a confidence builder. But, all right, we are gonna leave it here today. If people wanna comment or share on Substack or comments in the podcast, their morning routine, their favorite elements, we love hearing other people's. I think it's a really fun way to get inspired too, is like taking little tidbits from other people as inspiration. But thank you all for listening, and we will see you next Tuesday.
Thank you. If something in today's conversation resonated with you, Take a moment to pause and notice where it's sitting within you.
Living in alignment is not about fixing yourself or becoming someone new. It's about listening, trusting, and slowly coming home to who you already are.
Thank you for spending this time with us and for being part of this community.
If you enjoyed this episode, you can subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who might resonate with it too. See you next time.